back to Brush and Bubbles. We had loads of requests after we did our lemon painting to do a couple more fruit styled paintings. I think everyone likes the idea of having quite a few different fruits to sort of line up in a row so you have a whole series. So today we have decided to do a peach themed painting. So to start with, I'm just going to talk you through what you need to create this painting at home. First of all, I would cover up your table with some tablecloth or old newspaper. You'll need a canvas. I'm using an 8 by 10 size canvas, a palette to pop all of your paints on, a couple of different size brushes. I'm using a medium square shaped and then a small pointy one for all the details, some kitchen towel, a cup of water, and then your acrylic paints. I'll be showing you what colours I'm using, but please feel free to do anything you want for your own painting. We are going to be doing a block colour for the background, and then I'll be showing you how to mix up the peachy shades. So just feel free to choose any colour you want for your background, and then you can add your peaches on top. So I would grab yourself a drink of choice, and then once you're all ready and set up, we will get peachy. For this painting, I've got white, blue, 3 different shades of green, some magenta pink, and a bit of cardamom yellow. Please don't worry if you haven't got 3 different shades of green, because we can make green using blue and yellow. If you've got one shade, you can add some blue to it, you could add some yellow to it, some white, even some black if you want to darken it up, so you can make up your own shades of green if you need to. So to start with, we just want to paint our background a block colour. So I'm going to go for a sort of light turquoise shade. So for this, I'm just going to pick up my medium brush and move some white paint over to a different dish. And then to this white, I'm going to add some blue and some green and give it a good mix. Once you're happy with your background shade, I would just say make sure you've mixed up enough to cover the whole of your canvas, and then just add a little bit of water to it. And what we're going to do is just go on and paint this all over the background of our canvas. I've given my background 2 coats of paint and I've left it to dry. So now I'm ready to move on to my peach colour. So what we want to do for the very beginning of our peaches is just start with a really light shade. It's going to have a lot of white in it, and this just helps create a very opaque, thick base for our peach. And then we'll go back in and add different layers over the top and then finish with the leaves. So for this, I'm just going to pick up some white paint. And then I'm going to add a tiny bit of yellow and a tiny bit of my pink magenta and just give it a good mix. So this should give you a nice light peach shade. And what we want to do with this is just go onto our canvas and draw on where we want our peaches to go. So it's totally up to you how many you want to add to your painting. You can have them in the middle and coming off the side of the painting as well. What I would just start doing is just drawing in the shape, and you can start smaller and just sort of get bigger. They have an almost heart-like shape to them really. So I would just very carefully start drawing in that shape. So it sort of circles around, but then it's got this sort of heart-like shape at the top. Once you've got that sort of shape there, you can then fill it in with the same colour. When I fill it in, I sort of keep my brush strokes going around in a sort of rounded way, just so that I get the bristles of the paint in there, and it sort of just helps create the shape of the peach. Once you've got your first peach drawn in, you can then go in and add as many as you wish. You can have them coming off the sides, overlapping, but just still use that same formula of drawing in that sort of heart-like shape at the top and then rounding them as you come down towards the base of the peach. Once you've got all of your peaches drawn in, you might just want to mix up some of the same colour and just go back in and give them another coat. Once you've given your peaches a second layer, we're now just going to move on and change up this colour slightly. We just want to brighten it up so we can then go in and add some more depth and layers to our peaches. So if you've run out of this first peach shade, just mix up some more using some white, a little bit of pink or magenta and some yellow. All we want to do now is start to darken it up slightly. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit more yellow and a tiny bit more of the pink magenta, and I'm just going to mix it into a little corner or half of this shade just so I can see that I'm darkening it up slightly. And what we're going to do with this is we're just going to go back on to our peaches and just start adding in a couple of texture and layer. So what I'm going to do is just start swooping these shades into the peach shapes, and what I'm doing is I'm using that pattern that we've already got, that peach shape, and I'm swirling my brush along with the shape so it sort of gives it more of a rounded look. And in the middle I'm being a little bit more straight. And what's nice is because the paint underneath is still a little bit wet, it sort of blends in quite nicely. What you can do then is just pick up some of the original peach shade you had and bring that back in and just mix it and overlap it. And what's quite nice about painting these peaches is you can be very abstract with your paint strokes. We want it to look nice and healthy and colourful and full. So what I would do is just start adding in that slightly darker shade into your peaches, and whenever you feel like you need to, you can pick up some of your original peach shade and add it back in and sort of blend it, just keeping with that rule of keeping your brush strokes going with the shape of the peach. As I get to this sort of cluster, I want this one to be in front. So I'm just going to make sure that it looks like it is by really defining the edges with this slightly darker shade. And we are going to be making another shade as well, so we can go back in. Once you've got that sort of darker shade in there with your peaches, we're just going to darken up the shade slightly, because what we want to do is start defining this little area here at the top. So what I would do is just add a little bit of white to your palette and then add in a little bit of magenta pink and a little bit of yellow. Mix it up, but we just want to make sure we're mixing up a darker shade than our previous shade. So I'm just going to keep adding a little bit of the yellow to it and a little bit of the pink until I'm happy with the colour. What I would do is just brush off some excess on the side of your palette. And what we're going to do is go back into our painting, and any of the areas where this sort of top bit that looks a little bit like a bum comes in, we just want to add that sort of shape to the top so it looks like it's sort of curving in. It's at the top where it sort of looks like a heart or a bum, whichever one you want to go for. And we're just going to start adding in that shade to that top section. You can also add this darker shade a little bit around the edges, maybe towards the bottom of the peach. You might even want to sweep some in to the sides to give it a little bit of shadow. Once you've added that detail into your peaches, now what we're going to do is just lighten up our shade again, just so we can go back and add a pop of highlight. So what I'm going to do is pick up a little bit of white and mix it into any of this remaining peach shade that I've been using. I'm also going to add a little bit of water to it. And with this nice light shade, we can just go back in and add a little bit of highlight to our peaches. And I'm again just rounding the brush with the shape of the peach, and you just want to add little flecks of this. When you've finished adding in the detail to your peaches, we're just going to leave them to dry for about 10 minutes, or you can give them a blast with the hairdryer, and then we'll come back on and do our leaves. So for this, we just want to mix up a really light shade of green. So with my small brush, I'm going to pick up some white as my base and move it over to a different dish. And then I'm just going to add a couple of different shades of green. I'm going to add sort of the medium shade, and then also this lighter shade here. If you haven't got green, you can just mix it up using blue, yellow, and then add a little bit of white to it. What I'm then going to do to this green is just add a tiny bit of blue as well. When you're happy with your green, we're now going to go on and draw in our leaves. So peach leaves are actually quite big and long, and they'll come out from the sides, from the top. We can just add as many as you like, and we're going to overlap the peaches, and some might be coming in front of them, some might be going behind them. But let's just start getting in the shape. So what we want to do is just start from one of the tops of your peaches and just draw in this big sort of swooping shape. They're a bit like that, and then you can fill them in. And we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be adding different layers on top of these leaves. We just want to start adding them in. So just start drawing in these shapes. So you can add a couple of leaves coming off the side of the painting as well if you wish. And then what we want to do is we just want to sort of link these all up. So you can add a few extra leaves if you want to fill in some of the spaces. And also you can just draw sort of stems as well, going behind some of the peaches, or maybe overlapping over the top of some of the others. Just start filling in any of the gaps that you want to. You might have a peach coming from behind one of the others, and you might just want a leaf coming down to fill in a bit of space. What we're going to do now is just change up this green colour slightly. So I'm going to start with white as my base again, and I'm going to add in the same two greens, so the medium green and the light green. I'm going to add in a little bit of extra blue as well and give it a good mix. We have a similar colour. And this time I'm just going to add a tiny little bit more blue and a little bit more green. And then with this slightly darker shade, I'm just going to go in and add a few little hints of texture and tone within these leaves. And if you want to, you can always mix up some of your previous colour again so it's slightly lighter and go back in. Equally, you can add some water to your brush, dab it off, and then go back in with a slightly dampened brush, and it helps you smooth it in. We're just going to start adding flecks of this colour to our leaves. So once you have finished adding in all of the detail that you wish to your peaches and to your leaves, you have then completed your peach masterpiece. I hope you all enjoyed that. Bye!